It is 8:30, so we will go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to our virtual career expo. We are very excited to be able to put this on for the first time, and hopefully we will see more of that in the coming years as well, something we hope to really grow. My name is Katie Zeiger. I'll be the facilitator for this session. We are excited to have organized this event in partnership with the Lee Summit Economic Development Council, Herndon Career Center, and Southland CAPS. I'm the assistant director at Herndon Career Center and Southland CAPS. And like I said, I'll be here with you all hour. So we are here today to learn a little bit more about the construction trades and specifically focusing on the build and fabrication side of things. There's so many different avenues and aspects when it comes to what we think of as construction. And so we wanted to learn a little bit more about that hands-on side. So we will get straight to it. And if you have any live questions throughout the event, there is a Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to utilize that. Alyssa just joined us from Lee Summit Economic Development Council, and she's going to help us facilitate those questions as well. So if there's something that pops up during conversation, feel free to just throw that question out there so we can get it answered live. We do also have some questions that were submitted in advance. And so we will pull some of those questions that students and teachers asked as well. So if not, we will go ahead and get started. And Mo, if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for the Kansas City Carpenters Union, and how that works day to day.
Okay. Like I said, hello everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Cisneros. I work for the Carpenters Council, but I work on the apprenticeship side. So not only do I work as an outreach specialist, which throughout the year I go to career fairs. I work with our Career Connection schools who use a program like Herndon. And also I work as an intake coordinator. So what that entails is every day we have applicants throughout my whole region. So my region is from Jefferson City, Missouri, all the way to Junction City, Kansas, basically, and further south all the way to the Kansas-Missouri border and to Wichita, Kansas. So I got a wide range of region. So anybody in those regions who are interested in our program, as far as applicants, they can apply online to us, and I respond back with either an email, a call, or some kind of text to give them more information. So on a day-to-day basis, that's pretty much what I do, is field calls, even people who want to inquire about what our program consists of and how to get involved with it. So like I said, I've been a carpenter for 27 years, worked my way up from an apprentice to journeyman to running work for different contractors through the city. Like I said, I tell people all the time, it's a job that in itself, it just is self-rewarding. You know, you don't know what you're doing every day, which is fun for me, because sometimes I do know what I'm doing, but I like those spot on intended times where, you know, I go help somebody here, or I go take a field call there, or work with schools. My best attribute of what my job is working with schools, working with young people like yourself at Herndon, and many of the other 22 programs that use our career connections throughout the state of Missouri and Kansas, who want to get involved, want to try something different, want to be involved with an industry that's growing, that has a lot of potential. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. You know, work with schools. I was an educator myself. I was a teacher here at the apprenticeship program for 13 years. So that other love that I have teaching evolved from, you know, being out there working with the apprentice on the job site, and then hand in hand, you know, going back to school, learning, you know, the way an actual teacher functions in the classroom, which scared me at first. Trust me, you know, 20 something years ago when I graduated high school, I had no idea I had the potential to be a teacher. If you asked me then to be a teacher, I was like, yeah, those guys are nerds, you know. But now I'm probably the nerdiest nerd you can probably think of. At least that's what my wife calls me. She goes, "You nerded out today." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because I went to Home Depot and then went to Office Max and saw all the markers and highlighters and got all nerded out. Not only when I go to Home Depot and see all the tools and materials." She goes, "You nerded out at Office Max just walking in the door." So anyway, yes, call me a construction nerd, call me a teacher nerd now. So that's what I love doing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that little bit of background. You used a couple terms, and I think that they're going to play into some of these questions too. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences between those different levels you referenced, apprenticeship, journeyman, and how
Okay.
that moved up?
So yeah, it's like a student in high school. I know Herndon, we've gotten quite a few kids from your particular program who come in at entry level, but with experience and training, that's the key. To have that little bit of background. It's like a kid who comes out of high school or college and goes to the first day at work. Sometimes they may not have the experience, but we value that experience here at the apprenticeship program. So, like for instance, a student comes from Herndon who has all 3 levels of testing, has all the background and all the projects at your school level or from any other school. They come in at level 1, but we give them advantage of coming in at a level 2 apprentice. Now, that's a different rate of pay too, because level 1 comes in at $20.19 an hour. Level 2 comes in at $22.20 an hour. So that's a big difference. A $2 difference could be, all what changes the mindset of, oh, wow, I can come in with experience and come up one more level. So yeah, our apprenticeship program is a 4-year apprenticeship, just like going to college, right? So at every level, you need a total of 750 work hours, which is on-the-job training. That's what apprenticeship is. It's on-the-job training mixed with comprehensive training at our apprenticeship school here in Kansas City. We're located, everyone knows where Royal Stadium's at, right? We're located right across the street from it. I love my workplace because when I come in every day, I see the big, Kansas City Royal sign, and it's just, so awesome. But anyway, that's valuable. So you come in at level 1, go all the way to level 8 in a 4-year time frame. From apprentice, you become a journeyman. Now, you may not learn everything because our apprenticeship program is designed so you can learn little aspects of like concrete, interior systems, finished work, scaffolding, welding, woodworking, and such in that 4-year time frame. And maybe you've not learned all the facets of construction. But here's the great thing. You're career ready day 1 when you become a journeyman because you're already working for that contractor. The contractor made that investment in you to build you up in those levels of training so that when you journey out, that's the golden ticket. You become a journeyman. And so that's what's granted your rite of passage, so to speak, to become that journeyman and start, learning your role. Now, we take that in also into consideration. The 3rd year you're coming into the program, we value as that trainer on the job. So we want you to learn more about what your mentoring capacity is. Because again, you're mentoring the young minds of someone coming up behind you. So why not value that? So we have a program called 30-year apprentice program where we will send you to a leadership conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, which that's our headquarters for international training center. So for 4 days, we'll send you there for mentoring training. You'll learn transitioning leadership and a bunch of valuable assets to give you that edge to help you mold those young new minds that are going to be under your wing, because we value that. Every corporation has a tendency to make sure they build upon their leaderships, in every level from entry all the way to, your more management level. Sorry about that. But again, we take that in consideration because we want to mold those young minds. Because if you don't, you leave somebody behind, not catching up or not following through or not being told what to do, you lose those people off that pathway. So again, our pathway is designed to make you a better journeyman, and then other avenues, you could become a project manager, estimator. You can become my job. I tell people all the time, I said, I can retire in 5 years, and right now I'm looking, for someone to take on my role. Because when I leave, I want to make sure that someone who has this capacity understood to make it a better approach. We can only make it better. I hate to say in the long run, things deteriorate, but if we keep being progressive and thinking about the future and making sure we blend a combination of future and past tense reminders of how we can make it better, that's our industry. That's how we move forward. And our industry is always evolving. So we value those timeframes when the young apprentice learns in high school, or even, we have people that learn in a correctional setting. Department of Corrections uses our curriculum also in 2 locations across the state of Missouri and other parts of the U.S. But anytime they can get that valuable training at an entry level, and there again, what apprenticeship is you learn and earn all at the same time. It's the best kept secret, because a lot of guidance counselors, a lot of people in education say, well, trades is for some kids who don't really get the normal setting of the classroom. And they tend to gravitate toward more hands-on project, which is that great. I was that same way. I was told to go to college, be successful and be a career. Well, I had someone pay for my college. So, I mean, who's smart there? My parents, I knew couldn't afford it. I knew I had to make an investment, hopefully in my own self, or have somebody make the investment. But again, that's what the prime reason why, a lot of times the building trade gets put on the back burner, because people think, well, that's only for kids who really don't want to, pursue something or put potential in what they have as valuable skills. They do have valuable skills. We all have them. We just have to be able to translate them into something we really like, something we really enjoy, something that really challenges us. I mean, to me, a challenge for me every day is being on a Zoom call, being on a meeting, being inside of a classroom, trying to organize everything so I make it look seamless, make it look flawless. So if it makes it look flawless, that's my acting. Because in some cases, in education, it's difficult. Trying to maintain a balance between what you really want to do, what you have to do as an educator, is to motivate students to learn. And sometimes it's hard to do that. But once you get them thinking about, okay, my future, thinking about attributes and skills that can be advantageous for once they get out, that's the key, is to make them think that they're worth the attention that you're giving to them in the classroom. My students in class, I'd always say, hey, look, it's my job to build you up just as much as what I have as a skill set. Because if it's not, then I'm not doing my job. I know tons of educators the same way. Their students are valuable to them, and they're trying to pour all their knowledge into them as they can. And if, at the end of the day, if they transition and think about other avenues of education or other avenues of okay, I can make this a future of mine, that's the key. They want to make sure that they're successful enough to take on those responsibilities, those adult responsibilities, once you get out of high school. So I think that's pretty important to learn at every level. I even tell my students now, when I finished teaching about a year or so ago, you'll never meet a carpenter that says they know everything. If he does, he's because you can always learn something, even as a right.
Absolutely. Well, I love how much you guys give back in that regard too, when it comes to education and really building from that ground up. So what are some of the skill sets that students would come in with if they're going to come in right out of high school? What are some of the skill sets that they are going to be most beneficial to them in those entry level positions that maybe they can start tackling in high school now? Are there certain classes that would help build those skill sets as well?
Well, communication is valuable right now, because, like I said, once you get on a job site, it's kind of hard to filter out, because big job sites, there could be 4 different contractors, there could be 5 different superintendents, there could be everybody from 4 or 5 different subcontractors to 10 different trades. So communication is a must. I mean, I don't know, they teach a lot of that in your I think English courses. I know every once in a great while I'll go and do job interviews or mock interviews with the education instructors. Matter of fact, I went to one, or was on a Zoom call with a couple of students in Marshfield, Missouri, in the English class. And so they asked me the same thing. So communication, if you can communicate, you can talk to someone, eye to eye, shake somebody's hand, and those soft skills are valuable, because, like I said, once you get out there, like I said, we're a referral hall. So that means we give people a tool like a contract list for them to make calls, not us. We're not a placement hall where we just find a job. Because, like I said, we don't know the background of some people. But if those students learn those valuable soft skills now, they can gravitate toward, interviews. They can gravitate toward those times when they got to make calls and find out if the contractor is hiring right now. And I tell them, don't make a cold call. Find out, be inquisitive, ask questions, send them resumes, ask where you can go and do an interview. Sit down and ask them when is the best time to interview, not just, okay, thanks, click, And I know, I get it. I got a 15-year-old son. He hates to talk. He'd rather, either be on TikTok or Instagram or something like that, ask the questions. And I do that. I text people all the time too, but I tell them, if you want more information, call me, because it's nothing better than on a face-to-face like this, or come to my office, or, spend some time with them so that I get to know them, because that's the process too. Those contractors don't know you from Adam if they don't see you, hear you, or make yourself visible to them. And so another skill set too is math. Oh my God. Math is such a big thing in carpentry, and we have tests to see what your level is. You guys do work keys, right? Work keys testing.
We don't specifically at Herndon, but a lot of different districts implement that in different ways throughout a super test day, or each district handles it a little bit differently.
Okay, so when we merged with St. Louis, St. Louis and Kansas City used to be two separate district councils, so now they became one regional council. So one of the best things that we implemented from the merger was St. Louis has started already testing most of their incoming applicants or students through work keys. So there was a reading, the math, and there's a locate information. The math test is not as hard as everybody thinks, because I even kind of sweated over the first time, because you're looking at a C- student in high school in math. But it wasn't until I learned how to teach it. I went back and took a couple extra math classes to get myself, up to par, so to speak. But after I learned how to, chop it up, so to speak, dissect it a little bit, make it into small bunches versus one big, everybody gets one big equation and they freak out. It's like, no, break down the equation, learn it in chunks, and follow the steps. Follow the steps is easy. So I took that approach in high school, and when I taught, entry-level math in our apprenticeship classes, to show them one step at a time, so that everyone catches up, everybody sees it. They write it down. They make sure that they can go back, because, like I said, blueprints the same way. Blueprints doesn't give you everything on a job site, but you have to sometimes dissect it a little bit to find out, what those little hidden secrets are, and implement your own knowledge. So work keys math is real. Some people have, and then we can designate it and start learning and helping those people, because we don't want them to fail. Nobody wants anybody to fail. We want to help them, because, again, after they find out how important math is, because I tell you all the time, that carpentry's math is carpentry. When you go out there and use a tape measure, it's numbers, right? When you go out and pull the formula to figure out how something square is, or how to use a T-square or a 4-foot level, it's math too. It's degrees, it's seconds, it's minutes, it's all those calculations that don't seem relevant when you're in high school taking those algebra and geometry and advanced algebra classes. That, again, that's the reason why I didn't grasp it a lot in high school, because I'm like, how's this going to relate to when I get on a job? When I was in high school, my ambition was to be an architect. So I kind of employ a little bit of that, creative thinking when I was out there in the field. Because, like I said, a carpenter has to look, or a tradesman has to look and see beyond a set of prints. If it doesn't show you exactly how to build it step by step by step, you have to envision it like an architect. So that was my claim to fame on a lot of job sites. When no one else could figure it out from a set of prints, or like, hey, give it to Mo. I'm like, okay, I'll try. Next thing you know, I build it, and they're like, what did you go off of? Did you look at a print? I'm like, no, it was up here. And they're like, what? Are you an engineer? I said, no. Well, I was an engineer in the Army, because I also was I started my career after high school, not only in college at Kansas State University as an architect student, but right out of high school, went to boot camp, a month after I graduated, and joined the Army, and was a carpenter for the Army too. So I learned all that basic trade skill, not only from the apprenticeship school a couple years later, but also the Uncle Sam. So I trained as a carpenter for Uncle Sam for 4.5 months in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And tell you what, that's the hardest way to learn how to become a carpenter, when the drill sergeant's yelling at you, you will, I'm like, okay, I'll get it, but just, he's back, quit screaming at me, or, throw a hand grenade at you like in a foxhole trying to build a shed to house somebody. No, I'm just kidding. They never did that, but they always threatened to do that. They're like, anyway, but all that military training, like I said, I employ anybody too who hasn't decided what they want to do. Try the military out. I tried the Army Reserves out just to make sure that, I could relate to, what that type of training could look like and feel, and help somebody. Because, again, it's a hard, when you're 18 years old, grad out of high school, it's hard to translate, what you want to do. There's so many other things that, could be, attracted to you. Colleges attract you, by showing you the glitz and glamour of, college life and, boys and girls and stuff. But to me, I wanted to join the military because it was kind of a duty, back when I got out of high school in 92, the Desert Storm kicked off in 1991, and all my buddies were joining the Marine Corps. Well, I was only one because the rest of them kind of flaked out on it. But I joined because a friend of mine who was an upperclassman year before joined the Army Reserve said, "Hey, why don't you try this? Because again, you could get college money, you get in shape, travel the world." And because that's my ambition was to travel. I wanted to go all over the country and do cool things. But went to boot camp at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Stayed in the same state. So I was like, I didn't know what to think of it. But again, the training was valuable. So again, I tell people all the time to do something that you can try it out. Think about things that you want to do, but also think of things that want to relate to job training, relate to skills that could potentially have in the future. Don't waste time trying to think, well, okay, I'll try some other trade school and pay out of pocket. Well, building trades and any other trades besides carpentry, they pay you to learn. So I'm telling you what, there's no better advantage to an actual contractor paying you to learn versus you pay out of pocket for something you may not even use. So
absolutely. So your education and background comes from a whole lot of different avenues, which is really interesting to hear. For students who want to get connected to the industry and maybe to a specific company, what types of advice would you give them on how they can make those connections directly out of high school?
Okay, so like I said, as an intake coordinator, once they get out of high school, they contact me and I give them a contractors list. That's where the soft skills I explained earlier comes in. If they have those necessary skills to call, that's great. If they don't, in some cases, I've had people call in and say, "Mo, can come in?" And I mean, I've had 25 to 30-year-old people come in who try to transition to a different career, and I help them. Sometimes I do a mock interview with them. That way they feel comfortable in talking to somebody. I help them write resumes sometimes. So, I mean, I'm a full service, not just here's a list, see you later. They call and ask questions. That's my job, and I try the best of my ability to do that. Now, if they're in high school, like you right now at Herndon, we had a kid, Colton Owen, last year who got into a summer internship. So he worked for a contractor last summer, E&K Drywall or E&K of Kansas City, and worked for them that 2.5, 3 months, and then officially got himself hired full time just as soon as summer was over. He had to go back to classes. So I know for a fact that with the guidance counselor's help, he can work full time and take classes online at his leisure. Or right now, I know that he's going to be graduating in May. But anyway, that's one specific program that helps out. That summertime. Okay, do I really want to work at the local car wash, or do you want to work at the pool as a lifeguard? This one translates to real life training that you're going to have that's going to benefit you once you graduate high school. Because again, everybody's trying to get that edge, right? Everybody wants to know, what to do, when to do it, and who to contact. Well, that's a perfect example because Colton had just the desire to work hard, and that's all he wanted to do. But we helped him out because, like I said, we saw potential. Our organization does that. We try to mentor people who have that potential. So in this case, I know that when he graduates coming in May, he'll be a level 3 apprentice making well over $24, $25 an hour. So when you want to translate and think about getting ahead or contacting our industry or even know people that are in our industry, it's good to have a little bit of knowledge so that it looks good on a resume. So the resume translates to an interview. Interview translates to them hiring you. Because like I said, even if it's a little blurb on a resume that says, they've done some home repair or maybe some demolition work, or I know this sounds corny, hang out with grandpa in the garage and we built, a race car or even a soapbox derby car or something like that. That's experience. I say, don't discount any type of experience like that, because again, you never know, and a contractor will be like, oh yeah, I was a Boy Scout. I did that. Maybe I'll give this kid a try. Maybe it's got what, all scouts are wanting, honesty, integrity, something that translates to, what contractors look for. Sometimes it's those interpersonal skills that they look for, not just somebody who's strong and physically look the type. A lot of times it's okay, maybe this person has dependability. The person shows up every day. Maybe did a part-time job working at Dairy Queen and was there, every weekend or or whenever the boss called and asked them to come in. I have two daughters that work in different jobs. One works at a hotel, and the other works for the Blue Springs School District in the summertime. And she's always willing to put forth the extra effort. And it shows, because every year they picked her up for summertime, prime time, they call it, like before and after school care that the school district has. And boy, they've already called her for this year. She has one more year. She's graduating from Central Methodist University and going to be a physical ed teacher. So she's on her way right now. She has one more year, but every year she gets called back. So that's what you want. If you have that desire to work, and me as a dad, I give them all the advice in the world to try to get themselves ahead, because I know what contractors, I know what companies look for. They look for someone that gives the extra 10%. You can always give 100%, but it's the 10% extra that contractors, companies want to see. But if you do that and show that and can prove you're able to work that much or work that extra harder, trust me, that shines through a lot of times. It does.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so without getting too personal, just going back to some of the questions that came in advance. I know you referenced the 4-year apprenticeship program, and then moving into that, you've proven it. Now you're into that career mode. Salary. One of the questions that has come in, actually numerous of the questions that have come in have kind of talked about what kind of salary does a person who's doing this as a career make each year? Is it hourly? Is it a salary, yearly salary? Is there one that's better than the other? But what does that look like for, on average?
Okay.
Past that apprenticeship program.
I'm glad you answered that. So we have 3 different pathways. And again, sometimes the 3 different pathways have different salaries. Okay. So I can speak for what a carpenter and a millwright can make. Starting off at that $20.19 an hour, you're going to make anywhere between, like I said, if you work a full year, 12 months, you can make anywhere between $38,000 to $40,000 the first year. Now, the first year, you're going to jump 2 levels. So if you come at level 1, 6 months later, you're going to come at level 2. So again, that's why I said between $38,000 to $40,000 a year for that first year. So then on average, it's probably going to go up another 2 to 5% every 6 months. So at the end of it, at the end of 4 years, a journeyman carpenter right now makes $40.30 an hour, which is going to go up to another, I think it's $41.39 by May 1st, or just less than a month's time. Reason being, because every year we have a contract year that gets renegotiated, where the contractors know the value of what our industry has. They want to reward people for doing great jobs, implementing, they want us to make sure to follow up through the rising cost of living. So it's a cost of living increase. So 2% normally is what we agree on, which is great, because when I started the apprenticeship in 1994, that's a long time ago, I made $8.50 an hour. So, and when I got out 4 years later, I think it was almost up to $21. And that was in 1998. And I was, back then I was happy to make at least, I think on average, probably 60 to 65,000 back in 1998. So, cost of living now, a lot more. So it's gone up a little bit more. Our journeyman carpenters in some cases make well over 6 figures in a good year. So last year with the pandemic, it kind of hampered a lot of our members, a lot of our apprentices, but the forecast this year is going to be even better. I mean, once we get past the COVID restrictions and everybody gets vaccinated, right now, we're just in this month alone, I've had probably a 40% increase of contractors hiring people. So anyway, yeah, 38 to 40,000 a year to start off. And like I said, people sometimes can't get past, well, I'll make only $20.19 an hour right now. No, that's not going to be every you got a 2% increase every 6 months. If you think about that's a huge benefit of seeing that progression versus, some of our non-union contractors will only give raises once they feel like it. I literally had a kid call up not too long ago, work for a non-union contractor for 10 years, making like $16, $17 an hour. And they only hinted at giving him maybe a quarter, nickel, 10 cents at the most, just to keep them, working for them, but they never produced anything. I said, that's the difference. When you get our pay scale and you look at our web address, and I'll give you that on our website or at the end too. You can see the progression every 6 months. As long as you put forth the effort, contractor keeps you busy, you work hard, show up, have a good attitude, and enjoy what you're doing, because eventually that will happen. Eventually you'll get in this mindset of, okay, as long as I keep working hard, as long as I keep proving myself, good things will come. I just heard a movie quote the other day. You got to do the good before you do the bad. You got to put the groundwork in first before you can get the raises once every 6 months. Once that's clear in the program, I literally, when I was an apprentice, every time I got a raise, I took my parents out for dinner. Whether it was Ponderosa, Gold Buffet, someplace. I was like, hey, you guys can eat what you want. I'm getting, back then I was probably 50 cents, but I was happy. Nowadays it's more like 90 cents to $1. In some cases, we get more added onto our pension and more added onto our health and welfare benefit too, which is great. We're building. If anybody comes by our building, we're building a wellness center in the front parking lot of our building. So right now, these guys are banging and putting forth a lot of effort to build us basically a wellness center where our members can come in and take advantage of going to a chiropractor, well child check, get vaccinations, get everything they need for their families at no cost. So it's zero out-of-pocket cost, because our district council is invested into that mindset of, okay, let's benefit the life of members. And that's truly what you'll have to look for. If you do anything besides, working for the trades or a company, you want to get into a culture that wants to benefit the lives of their employees, of their members. Because if you don't, that's not what they're about. If they're not trying to improve the lives of people that they work for, or people who are in their culture. Because like I said, it's big to know that if they're thinking about the people who work for them, they're always trying to better their conditions, whether it's better pay, whether it's better insurance, whether it's better working conditions. So that's sort of what our industry is all about.
Absolutely. Okay. I've got two follow-up questions from that, but I'll start with the first one being work-life balance. So you talked about making sure that, you're looking at, does the industry or the company you're working for support the family, and making sure that work-life balance is there too. What kind of hours should you expect in a day-to-day?
Okay. Normally our work contractors work from 7 to 3:30. That's our normal 8-hour day. Okay. Well, now some of them will have expectations, like, say, for instance, if a job needs to be done in a certain amount of time, there could be 1 shift, 2 shifts, 3 shifts. So that's not uncommon too. A lot of times our millwrights do that in industrial plants. So are you familiar with Clay Como, the Ford plant, in Fairfax, the GM plant? Sometimes they have 1, 2nd, and 3rd shifts. So you'll have somebody work from like midnight to 7 in the morning or something like that. So that's not uncommon either. But when we negotiate those contracts, we have incentives for, okay, say for instance, you've worked that night shift, noon to 7 in the morning, they may say, okay, we only technically work 7 hours, but we'll pay for 8. So our normal package is, if you work anything over 8 hours a day, it goes into time and a half. So say for instance, you were a level 1 apprentice making $20.19 an hour. So Monday afternoon, Tuesday or Monday afternoon, say, hey guys, we need to work 10-hour days. Okay, no problem. So after 8 o'clock or after 3:30, the rest of the time from 3:30 to 5:30, you're making time and a half. So you're making almost 27 an hour on top of that. So then on the weekends, if you have to work another weekend, so Saturday, all day Saturday, that whole day is time and a half. So, and then on a weekend, or I'm sorry, on a holiday like yesterday was Easter. The contractor you worked on, say for instance, if they had to work on our building outside, or GM plant said, hey, you guys need to come in on Sunday, and we know it's Palms or Easter Sunday had to work, that's double time. So that takes your wages times 2. So anytime you have to work anything over 8 hours a day or anything over 40 hours a week, it's always time and a half. And weekends are always, Saturday is always time and a half, Sunday is always double time. So we know those are valuable times. Like I said, you want to balance that, family life, because like I said, unions years and years ago, especially the Carpenters Union back in the early 1800s, fought for the 8-hour workday, fought so that you can have the privilege of working, a certain amount of time and have the balance of family life and organizations and things you want to do. A lot of our, trust me, a lot of our members are hunters. So it's not uncommon for our apprenticeship school to be down for 2 weeks in November for hunting season. And a lot of our members choose to take a layoff in those months too, like December, November, December, because they know, hey, they go hunting trips or they'll take off for a couple weeks at a time and do all that, bow hunting. I'm not a hunter. I grew up in the city. I had no interest in it. Anyway, but leisure time is very important. Just like yesterday, everybody had Easter, so I like vacations, and so that's why in our contract we have a vacation fund. So $1 per hour after you get past level 5, on your behalf, the contractor puts an extra $1 into your benefit package and builds up. So dollar for dollar every week. So if you work 40 hours 1 week, guess what? You get $40 put into this vacation fund. So at the end of the year, it starts May 1st of every year and ends April 31st. So during that whole year's time, if you collect on average, say for instance, a good year for a carpenter work is anywhere from 1,500 to 1,600 hours a year. Reason being because construction is seasonal. You'll have downtime in the wintertime because of the cold weather, or springtime because it's raining. So say for instance, you have $1,500 or 1,500 hours working that whole year's time, or contractor would call it. Guess what? You're going to get $1,500 in your account to pull out starting like right now at the end of this month, but then it won't produce or get mature enough for you to draw out of it until probably 1st of June. Reason being because some of our contractors hold the money into an account and then put it in your benefits. That way you can actually deposit into a checking or savings account to withdraw. So like I said, vacations, I love them. I just went on vacation 2 weeks ago because of my birthday. Me and my wife and some friends of ours went to Las Vegas and for a weekend. And so every year we plan on having some type of family vacation. This year we're going to North Carolina at a lake resort. Christmas we're probably going to, or actually every 2 years we go to not Myrtle Beach, Daytona Beach, Florida. Spend the whole weekend at Christmas on the beach. So that's my enjoyment. Taking my kids places, doing the Grand Canyon, Washington D.C., the beach most time. I got teenage girls, so for some reason they like to go to the beach, go guy watching and stuff. So anyway, yeah, I enjoy that, and that's one benefit that a lot of people don't know that we have is a vacation fund. So again, when I talk to high school kids, I'm like, what do you want to do in life besides work? Because you have to balance that. I mean, you want to. Do you want to live to work or work to live? Me, I want to work to live. Go on those vacations whenever I can with my family, enjoy that time. But if you think about it, not too many Americans, and I know we're probably the worst country in the world, we don't take vacations. We're sitting in front of monitors and screens and don't plan those things out. To me, like I said, 5 more years, I can retire. And that's what's great about our industry too. After 31 years of working in the field or working as a carpenter in any aspect or form, you can retire and feel secure in that investment that you're going to have a nest egg that you can draw from that's going to help you sustain the rest of your life. And it will. Most places you got to keep working and maturing it, keep working and maturing it. Ours is once you put in that 31 years investment, boom, it's yours until the day you die. So that's comforting enough. I know it's rude to say that, comforting in this day and age, but it's comforting to know that my family, my wife and I will be taken care of, and the kids until I pass away. Which you got to stay healthy too. You got to keep working out and stay. And I tell people all the time, it's the best workout is working in construction 8 hours a day, because it will not feel the same way the next day. You have to be in shape for it. Because think about it, it's like conditioning an athlete. We had a seminar years ago. We had an actual fitness coach, life coach, come in and say, "Look, you guys are athletes. People that work construction trades. If you're climbing up scaffolding, you're carrying material all day long. Or some at that level, because you got to maintain it for all those injuries and all those times that you really don't want to get out of it. The only times I had that is when it was really, really cold outside. I get up in the morning and I listen to Gary Lezak or something, and he's saying, hey, it's minus 10 degrees outside. I'm like, let me call the boss real quick and tell I might not make it in today. But that's about the only time I really didn't I dislike what I was doing because, again, at the same time, I knew the benefit of working hard, but at the same time, I by that time I could somewhat pick and choose if I really wanted to come out of the house that day. But more or less, you're rewarded half the time. You get them in, the contractor says, yeah, it's minus 10 degrees, guys. Come on in. And, we'll sit in the office and maybe clean up the shop that day or do some housekeeping or something like that. So you was rewarded because, your diligence, your dependability. Trust me, that was the main focus of what I chose as a young apprentice, to be there every day, working hard, showing up, showing how dependable I was so that they could say, hey, call Mo, if anything else fails, if no one wants to show up, that guy will show up. He'll give us his 110%. And that's your reputation. You want that reputation later on, not even in this industry, but in, whatever you do down the road, whether it was the military, whether it's a corporate setting, whether you're a teacher, teachers, we have to be dependable. Sometimes there's no substitutes. So anyway.
So as a high school student, are there certain tools, are there certain supplies that they could plan on getting now that's going to help them come in better prepared for the industry?
Well, like I said, if they're doing building trades, of course, they're using those tools day to day. It's not uncommon for some of these high school kids, they have grandfathers, dads in the building trades, so they'll be comfortable using hand tools or power tools. Our contractors never have you buy your own power tools. They have to supply them. PPE, they have to supply, like nowadays, they have to supply masks, but just get comfortable using, everything. Oh, the biggest one is a tape measure. Get comfortable reading that tape measure back and forth, upside down. I mean, a lot of times they'll still cheater tape measures where they already have the fractions on there, but I'm telling all the time, get rid of those. I mean, the fractions will just come natural once you start reading dimensions and such. Like again, math will trigger all those, quarters, inches, 5/8, 7/8, and how to, subtract, multiply, divide them. Because again, you're going to be doing that every single day. So get comfortable with that tape measure. Buy a good one too. Don't buy the Harbor Freight stuff that, the breaks in 2 days. Craftsman, DeWalt sells really good ones. So invest in those if you can. I mean, I know not everyone has the means to do that. But once you become an apprentice, I always tell people, I say, put $20 away every day, every paycheck, that way you can buy the good stuff. For me, I had a father that loved Craftsman tools. He was the type of guy that we would go inside of a Sears store and my mom would go to the garment section and my dad would go right to the tool section. I'd follow right behind him. And I'd be, glistening with seeing hammers and chisels and, ratchets and stuff like that. And to this day, Sears started closing and I felt kind of heartbroken, but at the same time, I still had affinity for Craftsman tools. But out there, my dad always say, buy Craftsman tools because they're American made, and plus you break it, you can return it. There's not too many tools I broke, but it was kind of nice to know that if I broke it, I could take it back. So anyway, that's a plug for Craftsman. So I was just kidding. I had a father who we watched This Old House. We watched Bob Vila. We watched all those little shows back in the day that showed you how to do certain tasks, and they made made me interested in architecture back then because you see houses being built and seeing other things getting designed and built. And I was like, wow, I'd like to really do that one day because it's exciting. But I wanted to learn how to do that too, and that's what you had to do something you're passionate about. And today, when I look at buildings and see things getting built, my wife always stops me if I'm driving past the building that's getting worked on, and my mind's already thinking, okay, how am I going to build this? How am I going to get this there? How am I going to use what tool and how many screws and this and that? And she's like, why do you do that? It's just the way my brain functions. I think about that stuff even in my sleep sometimes. Always, poking me when I drive past the building. Or nowadays, because I teach OSHA so much for the past several years, I'm looking for, for defects, ladders leaning up on buildings or people walking to the edge of it or do something dangerous because you're not supposed to do that. No one told me years ago not to do that. And of course, my job now is to make sure people know how to prevent those different types of accidents and stuff. So again, watch out for the tools too. Be careful, when you buy them, try to use them appropriately. A lot of them always tell you that, to use some type of PPE, I always wear a hard hat in your own garage, but be careful with those because those things are, are dangerous in the wrong hands.
No, they can be. Good advice. One of the questions that came in sooner, and we've got just a few minutes left if anybody has any live questions, but one of the questions that came in prior was, what do you wish you knew in high school versus now as a working adult about your industry? What is the best advice that you can give when choosing a career?
That these jobs are out here and that, they're attainable. For me, my father worked for the railroad, and of course he had no qualms. They always said, hey, I don't want you working in the railroad, because the railroad wanted you to have a strong back of mind. But just to know the diversity out there, find out what's important for you. Try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that. In summertime, I worked for the Kansas City School District, cutting grass and tarring playgrounds, working with my hands and working around young guys. We're all around that same age, 16, 17 years old. And that's what I like, that camaraderie, to be a guy, so to speak. I know that's not important to a lot of people, but being comfortable with what you do, knowing that if you have a skill set, you can use that to your advantage. Not just something that well, I've taken this construction trade class just because I can hang out with so and so, or I can ditch the honors class that I was supposed to take and take something easy. Find something that challenges you. It may be scary. It may be something that you're not feeling comfortable. Maybe out of your your comfort zone. You'll find out in life that if you get out of that comfort zone, you'll find that you can do certain things that you never thought you could. I had to get out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone get out was boot camp right after high school. Got way out of my comfort zone and found out that, man, I really enjoy doing things that I really can't see myself doing. And that's what plagues a lot of people's psyche. Hey, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I want to hang out with my buddies. I want to go to community college. I want to do this because it's what's expected of me. Sometimes think out of the box. Think of what things can be done, and you'll find out later on in life. That's going to suit you better, because if you can adjust, can adapt, that's what companies look for too. Somebody who can give that 110% of themselves, who can adapt, who can believe in themselves and have other people believe in you too. And that transformation is key. To do something that is out of the box, do something that's out of your comfort zone, and try it. You may never know you'll like it until you try it. So if I can give anybody advice, try something that you may be unwilling to do now, but it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Right. Absolutely. So what happens if they don't like it? What if they go into it, they get into the middle of an apprenticeship and they decide this is not for me?
Well,
what happened?
Well, two things can happen. They can either just say adios, hang up my tool bag, try something different, or just like I said, the recession that happened several years ago, I had apprentices who left and found other jobs. But guess what? They'd call me up 5 or 6 years later and say, hey, Mo, can I get back in? I had one who was in the Navy, got into the apprenticeship program, got out 5 years. And he told me he tried something different. He tried sales. It really wasn't his passion. But when he decided to jump back into another career, which we don't leave you hanging. You don't get out and just leave all that training, say, for instance, 2.5 years into it. You start back where you stopped out at. So when he came back, he was making more money than he was in sales. Plus, we didn't, demerit him anything. He was still at the same level 5, and he just progressed there from then. So we'd have withdrawals where people just get out for some other reason, but you keep signing up with us and stay current with us as far as your union dues, and you can get right back in. 5 years later, this guy decided to get back in and started didn't start at ground zero, came in and started back right where he left. And then now he's, last time I talked to him, he was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is my old stomping grounds, working for a contractor on a hospital we're building down there. So again, some people decided, I tell people all the time, construction is not for everybody. There'll be those ups and downs. I had those highs and lows working for, 4 contractors in 4-month time period when I first started. But once one decided they want to invest in me, wow, I was, on my way after that, and like I said, 27 years later, haven't looked back. But in a carpenter, one career, but different aspects of what this field can generate itself into. You know, I had no idea I was a teacher, you know, until 14 years ago. But now I got out of my comfort zone. I felt, you know, that someone had the investment in me to progress. I had them pay for my education. And now I look back and said, look, if I had never decided to do that, or someone gave me the opportunity, I would have never dove into it head first. And when I told myself 20 something years ago, when I finished my apprenticeship, that I'd never come back to teaching or go back to that training center, someone pulled a wool over my eyes, because I came back and I was a permanent fixture, and still am right now today. So just like I said, you just never know what this career can do for you. But if you're not willing to get out of that comfort zone, if you're not willing to try something different, maybe for a while too, maybe to see if the construction industry, again, is turbulent in some cases. You know, it's ebb and flow with, you know, when the stock market does certain things with building materials and housing trends and things like that. But one thing's current. I tell people all the time: if you have the willingness, you want to work hard, and you have the desire to be better than what you are now, I said, try this construction trade out and see if you like it.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned architecture is one, but what are some post-secondary degrees that might be helpful for somebody who wanted to go that route and getting a diploma, and then being within the industry?
Okay. So like I said, say for instance, we have a contractor called J.E. Dunn. I don't know if you're familiar with, they do a lot of construction. Matter of fact, their headquarters is in Kansas City. I think they're 12th largest general contractor in the United States. Anyway, they have people with 4-year degrees in construction management or industrial management come to them to work for them, you know, eventually become project managers, estimators, superintendents. Now, their program is based on, if they have 4-year degree, they still have to go through apprenticeship. So they'll still come through apprenticeship no matter what. You know, they didn't bypass the apprenticeship at all and get a 4-year degree and get sit in office. To be a part of the superintendent program, you have to go through the apprenticeship program, even if it's for 2 years. So you don't have to start in at ground zero. You can come in at mid-level and work your way up. They know the value of the hands-on experience of what our school gives. You know, it gives a balance of technical classes like welding, forklift training. We do scaffold training also. But again, the comprehensive training you also get on the job is not comparison. You know, you're not going to find another industry that's going to put you in those situations. Have you learned with somebody, a journeyman, or even another higher level apprentice, so you can learn the trade and earn your stripes, so to speak. You know, you're not going to learn this trade looking into a book, even though we have tons of curriculum that are international. When I was teaching in the classroom, I taught 17 different classes. So ranging everything from infectious risk assessment control, ICRA. If somebody works in a hospital, they have to know the hidden dangers of silica, or hidden dangers of, you know, different kind of chemical exposure and stuff like that. So it's not for the faint of heart, because once you get involved and learn about how serious the conditions can be, you know, a lot of things you can work with are potential cancer causing, you know, debilities. But if you learn how to work safe and sound, those things are harmless to you. But you have to be aware that our industry is like that. It's like somebody who signs up for the police academy, right? Eventually they're going to have to do what? They're going to use a firearm one day. Eventually they're going to have to, you know, maybe work their way through an unruly mob, you know. But we tell people all the time, you know, it just may be that the training you get will make you aware of any kind of unhealthy condition that you may be susceptible to. So we just warn you about, you know, all those hidden dangers. And if you take them in with a grain of salt, you know, you'll learn how to prevent those accidents, those incidents, those harmful conditions that you may be involved with. So yeah, it's just part of our industry, just like any other industry out there that's could be have hazards in it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. That brings us just about to the end of our hour. Any final pieces of advice or things you'd like to tell our students who are with us?
No, I will leave you with, I didn't get a chance to type it in, but in the chat room, our web address is www.carp, like carpenter, carpdc.org. where you can find us and look for yourself. Our web address does have no disclaimers. It gives you all the bare facts of what you can expect as a carpenter, what the wage scales are, our leadership, other advancements that we have in our industry. We have online courses we offer for members. So again, everything out there that can be useful and helpful to its members, we offer. Even if it's at the wellness center that I know I'm going to take advantage of because it offers massage therapy. So I'm all about trying to make sure I don't get tensed up from all my work.
Not bad.
So,
that's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody for joining us for this hour. Hopefully you picked up a few interesting facts about the construction and the build and fabrication side of things. And I want to thank Mo for joining us today and all your words that you shared and pieces of advice. So,
Nope. Yeah. No problem, guys. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will go ahead and sign off there. And thank you so much.
Yeah. You guys have a great day and look forward to seeing you guys in the building trades class.
Yes, absolutely.